School committee will come to order. Today is Monday, February 3rd. Our next meeting will take place on Monday, March 2nd, here at the Senior Center at 6 p.m. The way things will go tonight, we will salute our flag. We'll then have a moment of silence for our veterans. We'll then have the clerk call the roll to ensure that we have a quorum sufficient to meet this evening. And then we'll get into this evening's agenda, which consists of approval of minutes, public comments, superintendent's report, subcommittee reports, motions and resolutions, personal privilege, and then we will entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of contract negotiations and pending litigation. One other change we will make pending the input of the school committee is after the approval of the minutes, we will take out of order the Salem Woods School field trip. Any objections to that? Chair has none. So at this juncture, I would ask everyone to please rise and salute our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of all those who have fought for our country and continue to do so today. Thank you. We will now have our clerk call the roll.
Mayor Christensen?
Here.
Mr. Weldai?
Here.
Ms. Luong?
Here.
Mr. Drummy?
Yeah.
Mr. Proya?
Yeah.
Mr. Iadina?
Here.
Mr. Gray?
Here.
Mr. McCarthy?
Here.
Ms. Spadafora?
Here.
Superintendent of Perry?
Here.
Student Representative Chouiki?
Here.
All right, so we have a quorum sufficient to meet this evening. We'll now have the superintendent introduce the Salem Woods School field trip.
Sure. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make a correction that is on the docket. It's incorrectly listed as New Hampshire. This field trip is actually to Charlton, Massachusetts for Nature's Classroom. The Salem Woods sixth graders are planning to go on a trip to Charlton in March, next month. It's a 4-day, 3-night trip. Principal Van is, and Ms. Stryer and Ms. Kalman, or no, just Ms. Stryer. As well as some students are going to provide us with some information. So we welcome you to the podium.
Good evening, everyone. We are here today on behalf of our sixth grade students to finalize permission for our Nature's Classroom field trip scheduled for March 24th through the 27th. It will be the 17th consecutive year that we have made this adventure happen for our students. At the Chelsea Professional Development Day this past November, Bill Daggett stated that one purpose of education is to help our young people become as independent as possible in our changing world. This is a message that I am trying to bring into my classroom this year as much as possible. The 4 days at Nature's Classroom give students a taste of what it means to live independently from their families and to learn using different approaches from the camp staff and from each other. You have received details about the upcoming field trip from my principal, Ms. Van, and we have asked a few of our 7th graders to speak tonight about their experiences at Nature's Classroom last year. I would like to introduce James Hippolyte, Stephanie Wong, and Abigail Lee.
Hi, my name is James Hippolyte. Nature Classroom was by far the best part of my time so far at Salem School. I become closer to my current friends. It helped me have a better relationship with some of the teachers that went and some kids I did not know very well. We did change in my field group, and they were so fun and smart also. I become friends with kids in my cabin that I did not know very well. We went hikes in the woods and studied the stuff. It really different from Malden. I also changed as a person. Before camp, I did not like to speak in front of a large group at school, but at camp, I was able to get up and speak in front of everyone. Now I'm able to stand up in front of you and tell you how good it was to go to camp at the classroom. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Wong, and I'm here to talk about the positive impact that Nature Classroom has to put in my life and my overall experience at the Salem Wood School. I had many new experiences at Nature Classroom, including sharing a cabin with other girls, and I found out that they were my real friends, and I can really trust them, and we have deepened our bonds and friendship, truly, in this free trip. We've already become closer, and we had so much fun doing the activities that the Nature Classroom has set it up for us, and it has really helped us come together as a friend group. It also helped us to interact with each other without a phone in our face, and we finally had face-to-face interaction without a screen. And this really helped us as the society is being taken over by the internet in this current modern day. And also, in this city, we don't usually get to see much greenery and the nature. And the Nature Classroom really helped us see the true beauty of nature, and we have gone outside, hiked, and seen the nature, and we learned about it. Our education and science have definitely grown. And we've also learned the skill of independence, because as our parents are not allowed there, we have to rely on ourselves, and we have to rely on other people and our friends. This has really taught us to try and get out the comfort zone and do your best in a new activity and try for once. That's it.
Excellent.
Hello, I'm Abigail Lee. Since I've started Salem Wood in kindergarten, there have been many positive experiences with my teachers and classmates. However, if I were to choose one time that most impacted me as a person, I would undoubtedly choose my time at Nature's Classroom. Nature's Classroom, or camp, helped me grow as a person by giving me the opportunity to experience things I've never done before. This included dissecting a small species of shark, learning about camouflage, and learning about things like constellations in the dark while taking a hike. In camp, it's a great place to learn about nature, engineering, and science in general. The most beneficial part of it was being by myself and becoming more independent. When I first left camp, I was extremely nervous, but by the end of it, I didn't want to go home. I would go back to help the sixth graders anytime. The teachers should continue the tradition of taking these kids to camp, because while you're there, you make friendships that'll hold out a long time, and you'll learn in more of a hands-on atmosphere that you wouldn't experience at school.
Excellent.
Questions?
And obviously, Superintendent, you recommend.
Absolutely, and I think our students articulated that in so many ways that are beneficial there, from the camaraderie, team building, confidence building, getting off of screens, and the way that it has really fostered a school community there and getting involved in nature. I think it's a win on all accounts.
Okay, questions of the members? Mr. Iovino.
I'm satisfied with what I've heard and very impressed by the students who presented about the field trip. I'd like to make a motion that the school committee approve this field trip to the Charlton for Nature's Classroom for the 2020 school year.
So it's been motioned by Mr. Iovino, seconded by Mr. Weldai. Let's take some more questions. Any questions of the members? If I might, just one from the chair. Anything you would change based on your experience from last year?
Make it longer?
I don't know about that.
I should have quit while I was ahead. All right. Very good. Okay, no other questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. That carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. All right. Now back to the regular docket. Approval of the minutes, regular session, January 6, 2020. Motion by Mr. McCarthy, seconded by Mr. Iavino. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. That carries unanimously. Regular session minutes of January 13th, 2020. Motion by Mr. Iavino, seconded by Mr. McCarthy. Any questions on those? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. That carries unanimously. Lastly, under the approval of minutes, executive session minutes of January 13, 2020. Motion by Mr. McCarthy. Hurry up, we got to get this in. Got to get this vote in before we have to adjourn. Motion by Mr. McCarthy, seconded by Ms. Spadafora. Any questions on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. That carries unanimously. Okay, so now we're down to item number 2, public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the community to address the school committee. We just ask that you state your name and address for the record in no longer than 3 minutes. Public comment is now open.
Good evening, Mayor Christensen, Superintendent Oteri, and Malden School Committee. My name, as I think everyone here knows by now, is Deb Gesualdo. I'm president of the Malden Education Association. As an educator of 16 years in the Malden Public Schools, I am deeply committed to the success of every student. Students are at the center of every single thing educators in all 3 units of the Malden Education Association do every day here in the Malden Public Schools. As many of you know, members of the Malden Education Association have been having deep conversations since the spring of 2018 about the education funding crisis that Gateway and urban school districts have been experiencing across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We've been talking about student opportunity and the fact that all students deserve the support, tools, and time to learn regardless of their zip code. We've been talking about student success and how a good education inspires our students' imagination, curiosity, and desire to learn. And we've been talking about the quality of our students' education and how it's of the utmost importance to ensure every student has caring, qualified, and committed teachers, education support professionals, and administrators in their schools. It's my hope that the feedback of educators, students, and families will be listened to and taken to heart upon submission of the district's Student Opportunity Act plan to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Our students in Malden deserve every opportunity, and they only have one chance to complete their pre-K to 12 education. They deserve small class sizes, high school schedules that do not include studies, world language classes in the K to 8 schools, daily access to school libraries that have librarians in them all day, access to guidance and school adjustment counselors who have caseloads that are not sky high, class sizes that align with what studies show is best for student learning outcomes, access to free breakfast after the bell in all schools, access to free lunch for all students in all schools so the stigma around free lunch is removed and our students don't have to go hungry out of the fear that filling out a school lunch form will negatively impact their family's immigration status. Education is a public good, and we here in Malden can be leaders in what public schools should look like for our students. We have the opportunity to take a good, hard look at how we do things. This is our chance to give our students everything they need to go out and become compassionate, kind, well-rounded leaders in not just our community, but the global community. Our students deserve the world, and we have the chance to make a plan to give it to them. I hope to see many of you at the community meeting that the MEA and Senator Jason Lewis are hosting on February 26th at 6 p.m. in the Malden High School Gallery. The format of the meeting will be interactive and engaging. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the school committee can do so now.
Hi.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Hello, school committee members, Superintendent Oteri, and Mayor Christensen. Excuse me, I have the cold that everyone has.
You want to just, can you just announce your name?
Yep, my name is Nicole. I was getting there.
Okay.
My name is Nicole Queen, and I live on Mount Vernon Park. This is the third time I've spoken in front of the school committee since November regarding gender identity issues in Malden Public Schools. Since I spoke here last, a wonderful thing has happened. Mr. Garcia and Ms. Jones worked tremendously hard, and as of 1/13, there are 2 gender-neutral bathrooms at the Linden STEAM Academy. I am pleased to report that Miles has a place to go and use the bathroom like the other kids at school, and so do other kids not comfortable in single-gender bathrooms. This is a relief to my family and to Miles. This is a huge win. A huge win. Speaking of wins, Linden STEAM Academy also has training for their teachers and faculty this Friday, training that hasn't been done in Malden in, I understand, over 25 years. Mr. Garcia and Ms. Jones have been kind enough to even give me regular updates and opportunities for feedback, something that I have treasured and has really given me comfort. Unfortunately, the bullying is not under control. One bullying incident took place in front of a teacher. This teacher told Miles he was a she longer than he was a he, so Miles should forgive the children for misnaming and misgendering him. This resulted in Miles feeling unsafe, missing almost 2 weeks of class, and he ended up with a D for the term. But the bullying is a daily thing that never ends. Children continue to plead ignorance to explain their bullying, and uneducated adults reinforce the lack of respect. Drama club, we thought would be really fun. It was quickly dropped. The kids sat around Miles discussing if he should be called Miles or by his dead name, as if they got to decide, with Miles sitting right there. Last week, someone commented on an Instagram post saying, "Isn't your name your dead name?" And when Miles stuck up for himself, a sibling approached Miles, which produced, of course, more conflict. And on the same day, a child approached Miles only to ask, "How mad would you be if I called you by your dead name?" And just on Friday, in gym class, a student approached Miles and asked, "Do you have a dick or what?" But we have a zero-tolerance policy for bullying, right? So I asked Mr. Oteri, since he has the ability to solve these issues at the Linden and at all public schools in Malden, 4 specific questions. On what date, number 1, on what date will Linden institute education for students regarding equality for the LGBTQ student population? Because after this training is done, there should be no more, pleading of ignorance. It will be obviously bullying, and something maybe can be done. Ignorance will no longer be a valid excuse if they have the training that they should have. Number 2, on what date will the rest of the Malden schools get, at minimum, 1 gender-neutral bathroom per floor? And that's just to start. On what date will the rest of the Malden Public Schools faculty receive education when it comes to LGBTQ issues? And lastly, on what date or dates will the rest of the students in the Malden Public School system receive education required regarding the equality for LGBTQ student population? How many more times will Miles have to be picked on for something to be done? How many more children are also being bullied daily by teachers or students? Why should I have to beg our modern city in the year 2020 to make sure that LGBTQ education is up to date with staff, faculty, and students? So I leave it to you, Mr. Oteri, since I haven't heard from you for quite some time. I want 4 specific dates of action. If you have them right now, awesome. I want to hear them. I'd love it. But if not, what are you waiting for?
Okay. Thank you.
I hope by the next school committee meeting, those 4 questions will be answered. Miles would like to now speak.
Okay.
When someone misgenders me, I feel like I'm getting punched in the face, And it happens on the regular, to the point where I just don't want to go to school. I hate it there, and when a teacher misgenders me, it feels like a betrayal. The teachers are supposed to be there to keep me safe, but by misgendering me, they are making my whole situation worse.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the school committee can do so now. Okay, hearing none, we're going to close that portion of the meeting. We'll now drop down to the superintendent's report, which has 3 items. One is the Salem Wood School field trip, which we already addressed. Malden Reed's presentation, followed by district updates and highlights. Superintendent O'Teary.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the end of the Salem Wood field trip, I also want to mention, while we were on the topic of field trips, that want to inform the school committee that the field trip proposed for Washington, D.C. by the Forestdale 8th graders did not get the response needed from students and parents. In order to make it feasible, they needed 30, but only 16 students had signed up, so the trip has been canceled, and the school will be planning other activities for their students. At this time, we have a presentation by Malden Reeds. Malden Reeds has been a great partner to the Malden Public Schools. The activities they organize benefit our community and students tremendously. We have them here tonight to tell us about the 2020 book selection, as well as their activities for the upcoming year. At this time, I'd like to invite Ms. Jody Zalk of Malden Reeds to the podium.
Hi, good evening.
Good
Thank
evening.
you for having us this evening. It is an honor to present before you, Mayor Christensen, Superintendent O'Terry, and school committee members and others. My name is Jody Zalk, and I am one of the co-facilitators for Malden Reeds. I'm joined here tonight by my co-facilitator, Anderso Rose, as well as Karen Krolak, who is with Monkey House Choreography, and she'll be presenting as well this evening. I wanted to share with you this evening that, as you may know, this is our 10th year of Malden Reeds. This is a special anniversary year for us, and for those of you who may not know us, we are a community reading program. We're organized by volunteers and anchored by the Malden Public Library and MATV, soon to be UMA. And our mission is to promote literacy, encourage a love of reading, and build community around this focused goal here in our city of Malden. As part of our 10th anniversary year, we have applied for and received a matching grant from the NEA Big Read. And we are so thrilled to be able to participate in this program. It has raised the stakes for us, and we are raising the stakes for the community as well in participation in this program. Our book for 2020 is Fahrenheit 451, and as part of the NEA Big Read program, we are calling our companion books this year our Little Read program to participate along with the Big Read. So as part of our 10th year anniversary, we thought we would share with you Malden Reeds by the numbers. We wanted to share with you some information about the impact that our program has had for the past 9 years. Strolling down memory lane, we have counted 49 book discussions in the community, some of which have been led by Mayor Christensen, and we thank you for that. We have had 52 titles of companion books. That's 52 titles alone, which means that we have given hundreds and hundreds of books to the Malden Public Schools. And along with those books, we have provided suggested curricula and lesson plans, all related to the Massachusetts Curriculum Framework learning standards. And thinking about families and children, we've had 41 family and children events over the years, and we've had 7 panel discussions, and participating with our students as well as the community at large, we have had 14 opportunities to participate with authors in person or via Skype, that we are so pleased to be able to have offered that opportunity. So that's just the last 9 years. over this coming year, we have a number of different opportunities and programming that will be launching. This evening, we will be providing to each of you a selection of our companion books for the Little Read, along with Fahrenheit 451. We challenge you as we provide these books to you. We consider these to be like sprinkling seeds to the wind. We hope that you will read these books. We hope that you will share them with your community members and your constituents and invite them to join you at Malden Reads programs. We also are providing you with a calendar of events for our 2020 program. And I want to give a special plug to our capstone event in May, which is our Mass Memories Roadshow, in which people will be coming with pictures describing how they see themselves in Malden, and that will be here in the Senior Center, and more information will be forthcoming about that. Regarding the books, we are giving you, as I said, a sample of the companion books for the Little Read. One is The Book Thief. That is a book that is for high school students. This is a book that Common Sense Media called being able to inspire people to think about human nature and why some heroic people are able to put their lives on the line to do what they know is right. Another book that we're providing to you all is a book called Light in the Darkness, a book about how slaves learned in secret. This is a book by Malden native Lisa Klein Ransom, who was recently honored by the North Shore Black Women's Association. Connecting the dots with Fahrenheit 451, in which books were burned and people tried to forget and tried to not learn. Light in the Darkness tells the story about how slaves learned in secret, and we thought that this would be an important book to share with the Malden Public Schools. There are many other books, and we will be scheduling meetings with the principals to be able to share information with them about the program and invite them to participate in opportunities this year. We also are launching a new collaboration with Monkey House Choreography, an award-winning choreography company here in Malden. And you may have seen Karen Krolak do some interpretive dance during our kickoff event that was held here in the Senior Center last month, in which she participated with students from the Mini Writers Den. So with that, Karen, I'd like to have you come up and share a little more about the collaboration.
So one of the things that's been great about moving to Malden in 2012 is the way that the community here gathers together for different things. And in the fall, at the local cultural council meeting that was reviewing grants, Monkey House had put in an application for the Malden Dance Mile, which we are very thankful that we got coverage for, which will be on May 9th. We were listening to all of the other presentations by people, and the presentations by Malden Reads discussed some of the needs that they had for programs that they were doing within the schools already, and we volunteered to be able to share with them some props, some costumes that they could use for some of their theater programs. And through that, we developed a conversation about how we might be able to partner on some programs. It may seem like an odd idea to bring dance together with a literacy group, but Monkey House believes that moving with meaning is really the fundamental definition of choreography. And I'd like to just share a small paragraph from The Intimate Act of Choreography, which was written by my mentor in choreography, Lynn Blom. A phrase is the smallest and simplest unit of form. It is short but complete in that it has a beginning, middle, and end. And every phrase, even the shortest, contains the basic structure. It starts, goes somewhere, or does something, and comes to a resolution. A phrase is to a dance as a sentence is to a book. Just as a sentence is comprised of separate words, so a phrase is made up of individual movements. But a phrase is not a simple accumulation of movements strung together any more than a sentence is just a list of words. Both phrases in language and phrases in dance must make sense. The movements share some common element of intent, so a phrase has form and content. It is a grouping of related movements that have kinesthetic logic and intuition, and are connected by their cooperative creation in a unit. And it's that sense of understanding movement as being a compositional form that felt complementary to what's going on with the programs that Malden Reed has been developing. And so we're looking at creating a new program this summer that will be working with students to both look at how they can be writing with words and writing with their bodies, and thinking about how the tools of choreography can help with public speaking, can help to reinforce the ideas of the other forms of how we learn to write and think, as well as to be able to provide some time for them to work on physically watching and responding to one another, which has been shown to help develop empathy and a greater sense of social cohesion. We are delighted that we are having the opportunity to do this. We will be writing a grant to the Mass Cultural Council in looking for support for that. And we are hoping that this will be the first of many projects that we'll be able to do together. It is worth noting that Monkey House is also celebrating an anniversary this year. This is our 20th anniversary and our 7th of being here in Malden. And I have to say, it has been truly an honor to be a part of this community and to see how much really natural, organic collaboration takes place on a daily basis. Thank you.
I'm just going to very, very briefly wrap up. Thank you so much for allowing us to make this presentation today. I just want to add, please read the book. Please read the main book for sure, and as well as many companion books as you can read. We're so excited to have Fahrenheit 451, a classic novel that was written in 1953 and has more relevance today than ever. One thing Jody did not mention is that we will be having Sam Weller, who's Ray Bradbury's official biographer. He's written 4 books on Ray Bradbury, the author of Fahrenheit 451, coming to Malden from Chicago. He will be doing a community event as well as visiting the high school classes that are reading Fahrenheit 451. And we're really proud to offer that opportunity. Mr. Weller will be interviewed here in the Senior Center by Hiawatha Bray, who's an award-winning journalist for the Boston Globe. So when Jody says we really want to up our game, I mean, this is a national grant. This is a National Endowment for the Arts grant. This is our chance to shine, and we hope you'll join in this journey with us. And please go to the website. Please go to maldenreads.org. We have a brand new website, and there's a lot of great information on there. So we encourage you to check us out, and we thank you so much for this opportunity to present, and we're going to be giving out books. And unless you have any questions or...
Questions of the members? Ms. Spadafora.
Thank you. And this isn't a question at all. I just want to say thank you for everything that Malden Reads has done, is doing. I, for one, will say the partner books or the little reads I love, because sometimes we're asked to go into the schools and read to classes, and I always choose a little read that you guys have given us in the past to take into a kindergarten class or whatnot. So not only are you benefiting us, but we're taking that and bringing it into the schools as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Superintendent?
I just would like to thank Malden Reads for their continued partnership with the Malden Public Schools. It's yet another way in which we're promoting literacy, but I think similar to what the presentation on Nature's Classroom, we're really building a community here. I think that we find common ground, common themes, and connectedness that bridge the cultural, generational divides that we see, and we find commonality, and I think that that is just such a community-building attribute and benefit that we get with Malden Reads. So I'd like to thank you for your fostering of literacy, your partnering with the Malden Public Schools, and your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. Any other members? Just from my vantage point, people now ask me, looking back, what's one of the favorite projects or things that's happened during my time, and I often say it's what you're doing ranks over any project that's happened in the city because of how you've been able to bring us all together. So on behalf of the school committee, just really want to say hats off to you. And like you were saying, I didn't think you could do anything above and beyond what you've already done, but I've never seen a book performed by through choreography before. It was amazing to see that happen here at our senior center, and again, it just helps the overall goal of why we're all here, which is to share, learn, and grow from one another. So, again, on behalf of us all, keep doing what you're doing. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. So we're just going to bring up books to all of you, and then I don't know if it's okay to take a photo.
Sure.
Okay.
School committee will be in a brief recess. All right, everybody, so we'll gather. School committee is back in session. Returning to item number 3, superintendent's report. Now we'll hear what's happening throughout the district.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have reached the midway point, or just past the midway point of the school year, so we are more than halfway complete. And Malden High School did several things to add to the social and emotional support for our students and staff during midterm exam period. They had open gym after exams until 2:30 every day, and enabled students and staff to play pickup basketball games, dodgeball, and other fun activities. The gym was packed. It was a real relaxing, fun way for our students and staff to blow off some steam. But the major hit of this time was the presence of therapy dogs at Malden High School. They were brought in, Mr. Mastrangelo, Ms. Craven, and their team up there did this. It really helped add to a more relaxed and comfortable experience for our students. The dogs were adorable and a huge hit. So we look forward to doing that at upcoming exams, hopefully, and continue that tradition. On Tuesday, January 14th, at the Linden STEAM Academy, the Boston Celtics and General Electric Mobile STEM Lab arrived, as we had announced. The students were entertained up in the gym for a while by Lucky the Leprechaun and the Flight Team. That's the dunking team that they have that go off of trampolines and do flips and all sorts of magical things. They were phenomenal. The Celtics also sent two a former player and a current player. They sent legendary Boston Celtics Cedric Maxwell, who's also the radio voice of the Celtics, along with rookie forward Grant Williams. For a good note, Mr. Williams' mother is a scientist with NASA. He has grown up in and around STEM, was extremely fluent and versant, and probably could have taught one of the classes. He was such a natural there. His family is very academically engaged, as his mom is a scientist with NASA. His brother is also a cybersecurity expert with the government. He explained to the students the role that STEM and technology have in professional athletics, from the monitors that they wear to the analysis of the data that is extracted from that, to percentages of shots and what type of game planning they do. So one benefit is to open up what STEM futures are for many students. It's not just confined to a laboratory. Mr. Williams noted that STEM is integral to him and the Celtics, and it is one of the components that helps him improve as a basketball player. They were incredibly great with the kids. Couldn't say enough great things about them. Also, the Linden STEAM Academy had two of their educators, Ms. Liani Mofiensky Ramos and Christina Rosenthal, along with a few students, presented last Tuesday evening to the Malden City Council on their Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. As you may recall, we had them here last year. They gave a similar presentation to a standing ovation by the City Council. They did a phenomenal job and really represented Malden and the Linden STEAM Academy extremely well. Under our diversity, equity, and inclusion updates, I have a few here. One is the all-gendered bathrooms. As noted on January 13th, we opened two all-gender bathroom options, one on the third floor, one on the second floor at the Linden STEAM Academy. At the moment, we are looking at the implementation of bathrooms at Linden and opening up at the Ferryway in the coming weeks. We will keep school committee updated on the progress. What we're looking at is seeing how this transition has worked, if there's anything we need to analyze and redo, but so far we're going very well. On the recruiting front, our Human Resource Director, Ashley Pierre, has begun to roll out a strategic plan to recruit educators, in particular educators in underrepresented groups. Last Friday evening, she had a dinner recruitment fair at Boston College's Donovan Scholars Program. We will also be participating in a few programs focusing on this matter in the spring, beginning in March. We have a recruitment fair coming up on a Saturday in March over at Cambridge Ringe and Latin. We also have one in April as well as participating in the MPDE, that's Massachusetts Partnership for Diversity in Education, about how we can continue to focus our efforts in recruiting high quality and qualified educators, particularly from underrepresented groups. Our Influence 100 on Friday, January 17th, Principal Bedell Sepulveda, Mr. Garcia, Principal Garcia, Dr. Chase, and I attended the Influence 100 meeting. This was launched by the Department of Education to increase racial and ethnic diversity of superintendents in Massachusetts and create more culturally responsive districts and leaders across the state and promote better outcomes for students. Influence 100 includes a fellowship program for qualified educators who desire to move into the superintendent role in the next 5 years, and support for school districts to become more culturally responsive and to engage intentional strategy development and execution around diversifying their educator workforce. As we have mentioned, Mr. Garcia and Mr. Sepulveda are our two fellows. At a future school committee meeting, we will have updates from them, and they will also be presenting their project to the school committee in the spring. We have updates from our nursing and health departments. The flu and the coronavirus. Last week, I met with, along with Mr. Dolan, with Department of Health Director Webb, as well as the fire, police, and other members of the emergency management team. First responders, as they usually do, will be using universal precautions in dealing with response calls given the uptick in flu virus. We will continue to take directions from federal government, the CDC, the State Department of Public Health, and the City Board of Health on updates and what precautions and steps we need to take regarding the outbreak or potential outbreaks. What we have done and continue to do at the schools has been highly praised by our Board of Health partners. We sent out a call last week. We also continue to emphasize hand washing. We have had our cleaning company sanitize all the touch points in all of our schools, and in schools where we had confirmed confirmed cases of influenza, we had a deep cleaning, including sanitizing of the school. We want to emphasize to families when your students are sick and experience flu-like symptoms to seek medical attention and to keep them home from school until they are symptom-free and fever-free for 24 hours off of medication. Our city nurse, Maria Tamagna, as well as our school nursing director, Patty Tremendozzi, communicate daily and will keep us updated as anything changes with this. We are optimistic that what we have planned here in Malden is very good and will help keep us healthy and safe. SBIRT screening is coming up. That's the state-mandated screening, brief intervention, and referral for treatment. Screenings for 7th and 9th graders will begin in March. Grade 7 students, the letters and the opt-out form was sent home with report cards on Friday to all K-8 schools. Our grade 9 notification of screening has been in the nurse's monthly newsletter the past 2 months, and grade 9 students can get an opt-out form in the nurse's office if needed. Letters and opt-out forms can also be found on the Malden Public School website under Health Services. A Connect Ed call will be made prior to the screenings as a reminder for all schools. Updates on new and ongoing projects and initiatives. Our Student Opportunity Act, we had a public forum meeting on that tonight. We have also, as we noted, we received $2 million in Chapter 70 funding from the state. This will be used to continue the services we have and fund some of the critical needs that we identify. The public information input session this evening will also include an open online survey input form. We have forms in the back table if anyone is interested in taking one of them. We had it translated into 4 languages: Spanish, Portuguese, Chinese, and Haitian Creole. Kindergarten registration will have some information and packets for our school committee members in March, and will provide more details in March about the upcoming kindergarten registration process. English learner education. Our ELE department, led by Dr. Yvonne Endara, will be spearheading the Malden English Learner Advisory Council, or MELAC. That is sort of the English learner equivalent of Special Education Parent Advisory Council, the CPAC. This will be starting up. Ms. Endara will have a meeting on Tuesday. There will be 2 sessions. One is at 9 a.m. and one is at 6 p.m. Both will be held at the Early Learning Center. Parents and guardians can choose to attend whichever time is most convenient. The notice will be translated in other languages and distributed to schools and online. We will send out a Connect Ed call later this week inviting families to that meeting. Dyslexia. The state approved Chapter 272 of the Acts of 2018 on October 19, 2018. The new law requires the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, in consultation with the Department of Early Education Care, EEC, to issue guidelines to assist districts in developing screening processes and protocols, procedures and protocols for students that demonstrate one or more potential indicators of a neurologically learning disability, including but not limited to dyslexia. Malden Public Schools is responding to the new law passed last year and requires all districts in the Commonwealth to develop a screening process for all K-8 students and an intervention protocol for when students fall below the protocol. Our district has a working committee of reading specialists, school psychologists, director, and assistant superintendents Wood and Chase for developing our draft protocol. They have met twice and reviewed what Malden is currently doing, which is a lot relative to the screening process and interventions. We have tentatively scheduled and identified DIBELS 8 to be our tool, and we'll start to use it in the kindergarten screening this upcoming April. We hope to have the completed protocol by June that maps out how teachers can respond to the data presented in the assessment and how we can communicate with parents and students. A presentation will be prepared for the school committee at a later date. Our before and after school program, there will be an information presentation and update on the before and after school program Thursday, February 13th at 6 p.m. in the Salemwood School in the K-4 cafeteria. We will send out a call this weekend inviting families as well as promoting this meeting on our website and on Twitter. Stop the Stigma Day is scheduled. This is a Malden Public Schools project with the Malden Board of Health and recovery coach Paul Hammersley on Stop the Stigma Day. That will be on Friday, April 3rd. The Malden Police Department, in conjunction with the Malden Public Schools, will be holding a parent cyber safety training on Wednesday, February 12th at 6:30 in the Salemwood School auditorium. This is a public forum to inform parents on cyber safety and sexting. We are very glad to have Detective Renee Kelly present during this training along with Lieutenant Mulcahy. And moving on, high school graduation. Memorial Day is early this year. It's on Monday, May 25th. The Senior Week's activities, beginning with the prom, will start on Friday, May 22nd, and will continue with awards and scholarship activities during the week of May 25th. Malden High School graduation will be on Sunday, May 31st, instead of the first Sunday in June. A number of surrounding districts are doing the same to be consistent in keeping the senior weeks and graduation and the rehearsal and all the other activities so that they're in closer contact with our seniors at this time as well. And then lastly, I'm happy to conclude in our report on very positive notes. Our boys and girls track team finished their season undefeated in the GBL League champions, as well as our co-ed swim team finished the season undefeated and also our Greater Boston League champions. So kudos to them. Congratulations to our coaches and to our student athletes for undefeated seasons within the league. And that concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Superintendent. Let's take some questions of the report. Anybody have any questions? Mr. Weldai.
Two easy ones. The after-school meeting, can you repeat the date and time of that?
Thursday, February 13th, 6 p.m., Salemwood School cafeteria, the K-4 CAF.
So depending on the length of the presentation, I want to sort of echo the sentiments from the last meeting where I think it probably would be beneficial to have Ms. McGoldrick come to the March meeting if the agenda is not packed, because I think it would make sense for that presentation to be seen by a wider audience, potentially televised, because I think that's one of the things that's very loud in terms of feedback from parents in the community. So if possible, that would be great. The other question, just planning ahead, is there a timeline for our, you said graduation and Memorial Day being late, and I'm getting a ton of questions about school calendar with Labor Day and the weird placement of Labor Day. Are we expecting to see that potentially at the March meeting for next year?
We're hopefully at March, but certainly by the April one. But yes, we're looking at the calendar now.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just from the chair superintendent, I want to hop on what Mr. Weldai was saying about the calendar. We did publicly announce last year or this fall that we would make a very strong effort to have this in place for the March meeting. So let's try and do what we can to follow through on that. I also want to ask you regarding the gender-neutral bathrooms, which I do want to thank you, Mr. Garcia and Ms. Jones. Is it your hope that all schools will be online by the start of the school year, or will this be a gradual phase-in ending when?
We hope to have Ferryway on by the end of this month, and then I think we'll work with public facilities to get these all online as soon as we can.
If you had to guess, are you thinking the start of the school year?
I think that would be absolutely by the start of next school year at the very latest.
Okay. Ms. Indara, I know we talked during her presentation about an idea that the school committee's talked about, and I'm very happy she's leading the way on this in terms of expanding the opportunities for our adults at evening to learn English. And I think last time we spoke, she had come into funding to be able to expand our current program. But the challenge was finding the teachers to do it. Do you know where that stands? Because I think this is the time frame upon which those classes take place.
I don't specifically have the update on that. I know that she had reached out. Sure.
Yeah, for your next report, can you just update the committee on where that stands?
Sure.
Again, I think it's great. I think it's really going to help our community if we're able to actually do that. And I just want to turn to our student representative about graduation and just get your thoughts. I'm assuming you're aware of what the superintendent was saying about the date change, and wanted to see what your classmates are saying. Makes sense to you?
Yeah, just because it keeps it all in order, so nothing major changes.
Yeah, that's what the superintendent was saying, because otherwise there'd be a week lag, right?
Yeah.
Would you come back just for that?
Yeah.
So the flow of this makes sense to you
for sure.
and your classmates. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Ms. Spadafora.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one quick question, Superintendent. I know we had to cancel the January 30th town hall. Can you just remind us what the future town hall dates are that you had originally discussed having for
I want to say March 5th, but don't quote me on that. And I can't remember. And then there's one in May.
Okay.
I'll
but
put them
we're in
out.
February now, so we'll definitely be circulating that information, especially with the vacation week coming up and being out of pocket.
Yeah, and I'll put those out on our website and social media. I think that they were in the last report, but I'll make sure we get them out. Thank you for the reminder.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Spadafora. Ms. Luong.
Just two questions. One, on the survey that's coming out tomorrow, it's only translated in 4 languages. One translation I was surprised not to see was Vietnamese. Is there, should I have constituent, voters that need that, how would I have that translated? Is there an opportunity to have that translated into
I could
another
look.
language?
I know that these were the ones that we could get translated as quickly as we could. I can see if we can do it in Vietnamese.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you. And then the other one, just on the dyslexia screening, my question is I know you're going to be putting a plan in and we'll receive your plan for the screening. When would we also receive a plan on how we're going to be helping the students that do fall below?
Sure. At the presentation, hopefully in the March or April meeting, whenever we can get that,
And
we'll lay that out there. That'll all be spelled out.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Luong. Anybody else? Just one final question from the chair, superintendent. I know another thing that we had told folks over the summer is that we would hope to be able to tell them what the game plan would be for before and after school in the new school year in March or March timeframe. Is that still the game plan?
So we're going to use the presentation next week to take some input and, explain where we're at in the program. So we hope to have that out in the March communications.
And that communication would obviously include the rates that we're looking at, all things
Yes,
being equal.
correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yep,
All right, very
rates and
good.
programming.
Yep, okay, that's great. All right, thank you, Superintendent. Now we're going to go to subcommittee reports and discussions. So under this item, we have space and enrollment, which will be filled in by Mr. Iovino. Social, emotional, and physical well-being, Ms. Spadafora. Policy and procedures, Mr. Weldai. First up, Mr. Iovino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The enrollment as of last Friday is 6,679 students. That's an increase of 144 students since the start of the year. We had, if you remember, way back in September, I was surprised at the drop that had occurred in enrollment. That's been creeping up. We're now only 39 fewer students than we were last year at this time. The biggest increase, of course, has been in preschool. It's been in grade 2 and in grade 6. We've had drops in grade 7 by 7 students, and in grade 3 we've dropped 11 students since the start of the year. The biggest surprise was the month of January. We picked up 53 students in that 1 month. That's the biggest increase since I've been keeping track of this, and that goes back to 2016. I've checked with Mrs. Federico from the Parent Information Center, and those numbers are accurate. So I don't know why they're moving in, but Malden's student population has increased by 53 in the last month.
But overall, it's down a year ago.
By 39, but it's creeping back up. What I want to do is also at some point, and I'm working on it, I'd like to present to the committee at a future meeting, and this dovetails into, I think, what Superintendent was saying about when the 2 million was one of the results of drop in enrollment, which is no longer a drop in enrollment. But in any case, we as a community, and I think other communities too would feel the same thing. The state needs to change the date of the final, the date at which our reimbursement is figured, which is October the 2nd. Our population, like other school populations, varies. It's changeable, and that October 2nd date is not functional at all. It should be at least November the 1st. So I will make that presentation once I have the numbers from the last 4 years. In terms of the preschool program, Superintendent Oteri and I and Tony Muritz met with Mr. Concan and Mr. Dolan, Assistant Superintendent Wood, on the 16th of January. We talked about a number of options, and it was like going up one-way street. They are very, very crowded. I think that I'm pretty sure that there's a possibility of one additional room at the Early Learning Center that would be turned into a classroom. And after that, they are maxed out. And to look at another school, for example, let's say if we looked at the Forestdale School, and I'm not just saying the Forestdale, but if we looked at that because it's contiguous, closer to the Early Learning Center, their numbers have increased. So and as I look at these numbers here in grade 6, the numbers in grade 6 that would be going on to grade 7, that's an increase of 24 youngsters in that one grade. Grade 8, this number is stable, but going from grade 7 into 8, those numbers will increase. So it impacts, it's not an easy fix to say, we can take a room here, we could take a room there, because those schools are going to be experiencing growth on their own. I know that we're going to be meeting again this Thursday, am I correct, Superintendent?
Yes, we have a meeting Thursday.
Right. And again, we're going to have to be creative and come up with some solutions. And I will be happy to report back to you at the next meeting.
Okay, very good.
Just to add to that, Mr. Chair, I've also reached out to the Department of Education for potential options and solutions, and they will be getting back to us and meeting with us to assist us in what we may have for other options down the road.
Any questions of Mr. Iovino? Mr. Weldai.
I think more through Mr. Iovino to the superintendent. It's one classroom that we're having this discussion about in terms of moving one group of kids down to another building?
Well, if I could.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't think it's wise to talk about, I'm not comfortable right now, Adam, saying that we're going to move a classroom here. It's tough. It's not a good idea during the year, all right? So let's see what we can do about maintaining the classrooms where they are and come September, instead of the next school year. All right?
Yeah, makes sense.
I just don't like that idea myself personally.
No, I agree with you, which is kind of why I was asking.
Yeah.
So I thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Weldai. Ms. Spadafora.
Thank you. Mr. Iovino, is it possible, as much as I hate to say this, to cap tuition at the ELC? Or, I mean, cap enrollment at the ELC to...
I don't know if we can do it.
Yeah.
I don't know if the state would allow it. I mean, it's an attractive thought. It certainly would solve a problem.
A portion of it, because legally we have to educate those that are on IEPs, early intervention, if I'm correct in saying that.
We'd have to service those students. It doesn't necessarily have to be as students there, but we'd have to provide services to identified students with special needs. That's correct.
I mean, there are a couple of other options that we have kicked around and that we'll be kicking around. But I just don't want to say we're looking really seriously at this, or seriously looking at that until we really get our house in order. Right now, it's like going up a series of one-way streets.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Spadafora. Just from the chair on your point, Ms. Spadafora, internally, we've suggested that that be looked at, but only in a manner that is years out. So, for instance, you wouldn't announce tomorrow that effective the next school year. You know, you'd have to give a year or two, some type of notice.
Yeah, I think probably a year,
yeah,
Mr. Chairman.
to make sure that people know way ahead of time that it's changed. Exactly right. Yep.
And the other problem that compounds it is the high number of youngsters in the intensive learning program whose behaviors issues are quite extreme.
All right, well, let's jump now to Ms. Spadafora. You're going to talk social, emotional, and physical well-being.
I am. Thank you. So the subcommittee met on January 27th, and our agenda topics included recess and sexual harassment awareness. In regards to recess, we really just didn't want the recess topic to fall by the wayside. Ms. Beardsley put in a lot of time and effort when she sat up here, and we wanted to make sure that we continued the discussions and kept the momentum going on how we could increase recess time and also ensure that our unstructured play time, in a sense, is structured, that we're not cutting into that recess time by having kids lining up when they should already be outside. So we had a lot of great conversations in regards to that. One of the takeaways was really at a legislative level, there is a bill that is stuck with the Joint Committee on Education that would mandate at least 20 minutes of unstructured free play that we really need to continue to press our state legislatures to get this moving. And then also discussing, like I said, the structure of recess, in particular, making sure that we're getting the most out of the time that we have right now. And what we took away from that, and I do have a motion that's further below. I don't know if you'd like for me to touch upon it now, was in looking at our district wellness policy. Recess was only mentioned 3 times in our wellness policy. Of those 3 times, it's really, we don't get into much detail on recess, on how it contributes to the wellness of our students. So I'm hoping that we can push the wellness policy into policy and procedure to be looked at and possibly refined, retuned to make sure that we're looking at recess and not just our nutritional guidelines and our physical education, but and making sure recess is incorporated in the wellness of our students.
All right, let's hold that for motions and resolutions.
And then lastly, just to go over in regards to sexual harassment awareness, again, a lot of great conversations on how we can increase educating students. So we're going to, meet again. We didn't have a takeaways in the sense of making any resolves here or anything, but we're going to look at our health curriculum a little bit more, as well as possible collaborations with outside agencies like Zonta, MAVE, as well as looking into who's handling our professional development and who are Title IX coordinators for the district to make sure that we're in compliance with Title IX law. So.
Okay. Any questions of Ms. Spadafora? I did meet with the Feminism Club today.
Mm-hmm.
I'll forward you the notes that I have from
Wonderful. Thank you.
it. Okay. And we'll see what happens there. Okay, now on to Mr. Weldai.
So the Policy and Procedures Subcommittee met the same day. And actually both pieces of the report out are underneath in terms of motions and resolutions, but I'm going to give a brief overview now so that it makes it easier to vote when we get there. Ms. Luong has done a lot of work, not just in the past month, but over the past couple months with looking at Sandy Hook Promise and ways to I think combat a couple different issues, but we met as a subcommittee. We looked at the extensive amount of research that was done. A lot of it comes directly from or supported by the Office of the Attorney General, Maura Healey, who gave Sandy Hook Promise a pretty significant grant to work in Massachusetts with public schools. So what we are actually looking to happen tonight is to, I guess, dip our toe in the water. We need to sort of take that first step. And we want to look at 2 separate pieces. That's why we split up the Sandy Hook Promise into 2 separate pieces, one being Start with Hello. And Start with Hello, it's really just activities and support curriculum, primarily for grades K to 5, to support developing and fostering empathy and positive social interactions with peers, with sort of an underlying message to be able to identify social isolationism in both themselves and their peers. So again, not something that is replacing anything that's being done, just a possible supplement. So that's part 1. We're looking for the superintendent, potentially through you and Director Craven, to sort of look at whether or not that's something we can do with our guidance staff potentially. But we're leaving it up to you. But that's one part of this, to sort of to enter into step 1 to see what it is that Sandy Hook Promise is looking for from us, because we're not able to really get too much information. It needs to come from the central office. The other piece, the second piece, was the Say Something, which is an anonymous reporting platform that works in conjunction with the school system. They do a website, an app, and a build out for Malden that allows parents and families and students to be able to anonymously report instances of bullying, issues with social isolationism. That's a tricky word. And that's piece number 2, which we're also hoping that the school committee will support, not necessarily support the adoption of, but support the superintendent going and exploring whether or not this is something that's viable for our district. All of this is, at the moment, cost-free. because it's being fully supported by a grant from Attorney General Maura Healey. So I think the thought coming out of committee, both of these were voted unanimously out of committee favorably. The thought was we should take advantage of exploring this while it's still free and figure out what an actual commitment looks like. So both of those pieces are down below under motions and resolutions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weldai. Let's get to it. Motions and resolutions. Item number 1, an anonymous donation of $300. Mr. Iavino.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I've spoken to Shirley, our clerk, and I've spoken to the superintendent. And they assure me that this appears to be very much of a legitimate donation. The individual has requested anonymity, and so it shall be. But they have split their request. They have split the $300 donation as follows: $100 for the high school band, $100 for the Choral Arts Society, and $100 for the high school step team. 3 very worthy causes. So my motion would be to accept the donation.
Motion by Mr. Iavino, seconded by Ms. Luong. Everybody clear? Any questions about it? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. That carries unanimously. Item number 2 under motions and resolutions, MPS District Wellness Policy. Ms. Spadafora.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as I stated before in my update, I'd like to make a motion to send the Malden Public School District Wellness Policy into policy and procedure to be further reviewed and possibly refined at their meeting.
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Spadafora, seconded by Mr. Iavino. Questions of the members? Just from the chair, as you begin work on this policy, there's a lot of shalls and musts in there. Watch out for those. And you're going to report back at some point. And you're going to consult with our team to make sure it can be, yeah. Got it. Oh, sorry, Ms. Spadafora. Go ahead.
No, thank you. Yes. So in those discussions, we had brought up all the necessary people that we would be working with and making sure that we're getting the correct input and following the procedures.
Perfect. So. All right. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. That carries unanimously. Next item, residency / student registration policy. Mr. Weldai.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Looking to do the same thing, just refer this to policy subcommittee. I think one of the things that we'd like to look at as a committee moving forward is the way in which students enroll and the way in which we verify residency for students who are enrolling and students who are currently here. So we'd like to refer this to policy and, of course, bring in both the superintendent and our Parent Information Center director for their vital input along the way.
Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Luong. Everybody clear what Mr. Weldai is suggesting? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. That carries unanimously. Item number 4, start with hello. Sandy Hook Promise. Mr. Weldai.
So, yep, this is the first of the 2. I neglected to mention during the report that what we are hoping for is that we would endorse this moving forward to the superintendent's level and then get a report back, ideally in March, but maybe in April, in terms of the feasibility after it's been explored. So looking to endorse authorizing superintendent to explore partnering with the Start With Hello portion of the Sandy Hook Promise.
All right, let's get it up on the floor properly. So there's a motion by Mr. Weldai. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. McCarthy. Mr. Weldai, I just want to make sure. So you're suggesting that he look into whether or not this could work and report back. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Superintendent?
Just a point of clarity, is this, I thought in your previous report, this going to the policy committee?
No, we already did that.
You've come out and endorsed it. Okay, all right.
But it's not, you're not mandating.
No, and we haven't endorsed jump in and this is the new
Right.
law. We just want, we couldn't get, Michelle, maybe I might actually pivot over to Ms. Long. She can kind of explain the process, but it was more, we can't go to the next step and see what a commitment this would look like to our district. They want to communicate with central office. They want to communicate with school personnel to like make the connections. So I'm comfortable kind of pivoting over to Ms. Long if you are, Mr. Chairman.
Do you want to add to that, Ms. Long?
I do. I actually, in talking to the people at Sandy Hook Promise, there's more information there, and I guess our concern is that we just want to make sure exactly what we're kind of signing and asking us endorsing, and to do that, it's only really the superintendent in his office that can actually take that next step. So that's what we're saying. Before we run right through and say, yes, let's do this, we just need the more specific information that I was just not able to get.
Okay. Do you want to add anything, Superintendent?
So this would, I would be put in contact with the people from Sandy Hook?
Correct.
And we could meet with them? Okay. And there's a local representative in Massachusetts? Sure. Give us that contact information and we'll start exploring this.
And you would have Mr. Conifrey and Ms. Craven, I presume?
Yeah, and as well as Mr. Wood and Student Services. Yeah, we'd look at this and then report back. Is that what the expectation would be?
Yep. Sure. Any other questions? Mr. Iavino?
I guess my question would more appropriately be for the say something aspect, if you don't mind.
All right, so let's dispense with this first.
Sure. Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. That carries unanimously. Mr. Weldai, why don't you lead us in on say something? I think you already have, but anything you want to just get it up on the floor properly? Motion by Mr. Weldai, seconded by Mr. McCarthy.
Same expectation that we're not endorsing. We're looking for the superintendent. Same thing.
Mr. Iavino.
My only question was, are the Malden police involved in this at all, Adam? Is anybody? They are.
They would be.
They would be. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I think ideally we'd hope that the superintendent would connect with, Pete Dolan, the emergency management team. But yeah.
It's actually been referred to the emergency management team when this was brought to our attention in the fall as a potential application to program. So it's actually being vetted with the emergency management team currently. So waiting to hear back from them. I brought it to Mr. Dolan's attention in the fall. He started reaching out through some of the partners through the STARS and NEMLEC districts, and then we referred it over the emergency management team because it would have an interface with the Malden police and the Malden emergency personnel, fire, public health, and so on.
Well, let's try and get an update from them as to where they are with it. No other questions? All those in favor say aye. Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. That carries unanimously. Two other items under motions and resolutions. Item number 6, educational equity. Mr. Weldai.
Item number 6 and item number 7 are just both policy updates from MASC. Just hoping to refer these to policy so that we can look at it, make sure that it fits what it is that we're looking for, and bring it back to the full committee.
All right, for those in the audience, item number 7 is equal education opportunity. So item 6, educational equity. Item 7, equal educational opportunities. Well, let's try and first get it up before us properly. Motion to refer both
to policy.
Policy. Seconded by Mr. Drummy. All right, now it's before us. Let's take any questions. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. That carries unanimously. 3 items to go. Item 6, personal privilege. Item 7, executive session. There'll be a motion to go in for the purposes of contract negotiations and pending litigation. We may or may not act on those items when we return from executive session, and then we will move adjournment. Let's take points of personal privilege, left or right. Anybody? Mr. Drummy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The ELC this Thursday, the 6th, from 4:30 to 6, is having the Parent Guardian Night to come in and talk to your teachers. Friendship Days will be running from February 13th through the 14th, and Dr. Seuss Week will run from the 24th through the 28th. At the Ferryway, tomorrow is the Title I Parent Breakfast for iReady and Dibbles assessment to explain it, to go over with the parents what it entails, what it does. That will be at, I know I have the time, I'm sorry, 8 a.m. in the cafeteria. Then there's a PTO meeting, Ferryway, 3:30 p.m. That's usually in the library. And again, also at the Ferryway Parent-Teacher Conference tomorrow night between 5 and 6:30. Early release day is on the 7th. They're out at 12:30. And everyone's favorite week, vacation week, from the 17th to the 21st. And that's it. So thank you very much, and I'll see you next month, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Drummy. Mr. Iavino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Malden High School Alumni Association, their major fundraisers this year will be the annual Hall of Fame, where they induct graduates of Malden High School who have gone on to excel in the arts, in government, etc. That will be on Friday, May the 1st. I believe the dinner will be and presentation of awards will be at Anthony's Restaurant. Tickets will be going on sale shortly. And if anybody is interested in placing an ad in the ad book, please let me know, or Mr. Froyo. We're more than happy to take your check. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Iavino. Mr. Froyo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Friday is an early release day for Linden STEAM Academy and all the other schools, I guess. Also, grade 6 field trip on the 11th. And there's a school council meeting on the 11th at 5:45 in the library at the Linden STEAM Academy.
Thank you, Mr. Froyo. Next up, Ms. Spadafora.
Thank you. This Thursday will be the Parent-Teacher Conference night at BB 6 p.m. Please do not park in the synagogue parking lot in which they normally let us use. They have something going on that night, so please do your best with on-street parking and school parking lot. And it's also the 100th day of school, so yay, only 80 days left after the 6th. Again, half day, 12:30 dismissal on the 7th. The Tuesday, the 11th, is the Malden Families Title I iReady and Dibbles Assessment Workshop at BB, 8:15 in the BB cafeteria. Thursday, February 13th, is Texas Roadhouse Spirit Night. Flyers will be accepted from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. with raffles happening from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. You will need a flyer in order for us to get our percentage of your dinner. So if you don't have one, please reach out. I can get you one. Also that night, the 13th, the Malden CPAC will be hosting the Federation for Children on a discussion in regards to everything related to IEPs. That is 6:30 at the Forest Ale. A gentle reminder, the 26th, Wednesday, the community bill signing of the Student Opportunity Act and community meeting will be happening at 6 p.m. at the Malden High School Gallery, and that is being presented by Senator Jason Lewis and the Malden Education Association. And lastly, BB School Site Council meeting 5 p.m. on the 27th, Thursday the 27th, and also BB PTO meeting on Thursday the 27th. And that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Spadafora. 1 second, Mr. Weldai. I see a light to the left. Is that Mr. Gray?
Oh, yeah, you go first.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. Just want to let everyone know there's a local group that I'm working with, the Mystic Valley Engineering Student Society. They're starting a season, a new curriculum at 36 Dartmouth Street starting February 15th, where they'll be training young minds and children in our city, starting with chess and calculus. Okay, and everybody could check them out. It's being hosted by one of Malden's finest, a person named Eric Henry. I'm sure you're all familiar with him. Like I said, I'm going to repeat. This curriculum this term will be chess and calculus. The kids need it, they love it, and it's great. I just want to pass that news along. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Gray. Now, Mr. Weldai.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couple of notes from the Forestdale. The grades 6, 7, and 8 Valentine's Day social is Thursday, February 13th from 6 to 7:30. So that'll be a tough choice. Do you go to the forum? Do you go dance with Mr. Concannon? It could go either way. The Title I parent workshop that's coming up is on iReady and Dibbles assessments, and they have their parent-teacher conferences this Thursday, February 6th, from 6 to 7:30 at the school. From Salemwood, Wednesday, February 5th is the Title I Parent Academy night in the library at 6 p.m. The topic is math, and there will be free babysitting provided for kids ages 3 and up in the K-4 cafeteria, which is awesome. Thursday, February 6th is also their Parent Guardian Educator Night from 6 to 7:30. A good chance to meet with your child's teacher, see how they're doing for all kids grades K through 8. Friday, February 7th is an early release day, dismissing at 12:30 p.m. Upcoming Spirit Days next week in the countdown to February break. The students and staff at Salemwood will be celebrating. On Monday, it's Pattern Day, so stripes, polka dots, plaid, etc. Tuesday, the 11th, is Disney/Character Day. Wednesday, the 12th, is Cozy PJs Day. Thursday, the 13th, is Salemwood Blue and Gold Day. And Friday, the 14th, is Red and Pink Day. Also on Friday the 14th, it's Friendship Day at Salemwood. Grade 8 is selling carnations for $1 a piece, which will be delivered on Friday. And last but not least, school council is Tuesday, February 25th, 7:15 a.m. in the K-4 conference room. I was going to plug, but Ms. Spadafora already did, the MEA's community bill signing with Jason Lewis. And I'm actually, the last thing I'd like to say, and I'm going to pivot back to you, Mr. Chair, because you can talk more about it probably, is I was thinking about the MEA, and I attended a really cool workshop, times blending together, a week or two ago, that was co-hosted with City and the Malden Education Association with City Life, Vita Urbana, around the issue of rent increases and people being priced out of our own community and what we can do about that. And I think, as always, Malden is on the forefront of innovation and making sure that we have ways to help and address our families who are experiencing this, which we know that there are a lot of students and families in our schools who are experiencing this. So I kind of wanted to just give a major shout out to both the MEA and to your office, and I'm sure that you can probably speak to a little bit more about that event. So I yield back to the chair.
Okay, any other points of personal privilege? If not, if you don't already have enough going on for Deb Gesualdo and members of the Malden Education Association to take on one of the most important issues we've seen, which is affordable housing, we just want to say on behalf of the school committee, thank you. Because your involvement has, I think, put us on the right track of trying to do something about it. I still remember when you came to our office last spring to, really inform us as to just how difficult things are out there. It was the impetus for us to, actually start working alongside you. And we're set to have our very first meeting next month. I think, as everybody here knows, we now are in the midst of having a standing affordable housing committee, of which I'm going to chair it. And we're going to meet once a month at a minimum to see if we could start figuring out ways locally to try and help as best we can. So one of the things that's already in place, thanks to the City Council, is any new mitigation fees that come into our city, half of those will be going to affordable housing. And we are in the process of establishing an inclusionary zoning policy, so anything that gets built from here on in would be required to have a certain percentage of units deemed affordable. And then finally, something novel from what I'm being told is a security deposit pilot program, which we're very close to having on the books. And essentially what that would be is to help people who are having a hard enough time with first and last month's rent. We would front the security deposit, and then when they moved, it would roll back in and sort of become part of a revolving fund. So those are just some of the things that we are working with the City Council on. And again, I'm not sure we would be if it wasn't for Ms. Gesualdo and the rest of the MEA. We'll now entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of contract negotiations and pending litigation. Motion by Mr. Iavino, seconded by Mr. McCarthy. Clerk will call the roll.
Yeah, I'm like really excited.
Mr. Weldai?
Yes.
Ms. Luong?
Yes.
Mr. Drummond?
Yes.
Mr. Freud?
Yes.
Mr. Iavino?
Yes.
Mr. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Spadafora?
Yes.
Mayor Christensen?
Yes. We'll now go into executive session. Yeah. School committee's back in session. Entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Jormy, seconded by Mr. Froyo. All those in favor say aye. Anybody opposed? School committee is hereby adjourned.